Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wahyuningsih with student number 136 from Department of English Education. And today, I'm gonna present my research proposal with title Analysis of Gerda Wagner in the Danish Girl movie 2015, directed by Tom Hooper, A Feminist Approach. Before I start, this is the content of presentation today. Consists of Chapter 1 with background of study and problem statement, in Chapter 2 with literature review and underlying theory, in Chapter 3 with type of study, object of study, type of data and data sources, method of collecting data, and technique of analyzing data. Now let's start with Chapter 1 with background of study. This research background is that gender is continuously being remade at different scales through national legislation and changing life circumstances, thereby presenting different layers of complexity for coherent analysis. The director of the Danish Girl movie made a virtuously movie based on feminist, queer, transgender, and intersex movement over last decades. Through this movie, it portrayed that Einar is success with his modicum critical for his landscape art, unlike Gerda who is struggling. Despite the main focus of Lily's gender identity change, it also can see Gerda's process in developing recognition of her own. The concept of feminism reflects a history of different struggles, and the term has been interpreted in fuller and more complex ways as understanding has developed. In Saudi Arabia, women were allowed for the first time to vote. The mere inclusion of female protagonists was once considered box office suicide, especially for major franchises with predominantly male fan bases. The issue of feminists is interesting because people, usually differing work based on sexual orientation to the majority that have always been persecuted, ostracized, and looked upon a lesser person. This also integrates how is their movement to gain their own recognition in society. Then the next one is the problem statement. The first problem statement is what are the factors that caused Gerda to wanted to pursue her dream as a successful painter? And the second problem statement is how is Gerda managing to pursue her dream as a successful painter? And the third problem statement is why is Gerda wanted to pursue her dream as a successful painter? Now, in this chapter, in the chapter 2, I'm gonna talk about the literature review. The studies can be generally classified into two classifications, namely linguistic study and literature study. In linguistic study, the theory that used is belonging to linguistic, using the former or structural theories from the linguistic. Meanwhile, in the literature study, most of the paper is using Judith Butler's queer theory to analyze the main character of the Danish girl, Ina Regener, in their paper and have to come up with different results because there were different topic in the paper. And then the first literature review is from Ahmad Hidayatullah Haki and the first Mufkairi MSE in 2019. That in their article there deals with the reason of sex typing habit in the Danish girl and how is sex typing depicted in the Danish girl. The studies employed the theory, psychoanalytical theory by Paul Henry Mason. And then the result of the study is that Einar desire for praise, affection, and acceptance by parents and peers for sexually proper behavior. Then the next literature review is from Hee-Son Kim, Jin Yong Kim, and Hosop Khan in 2019. Their articles deal with study of fashion that bring out the characteristic of gender identity that portrayed in the Danish Girl movie. The study is using the theory of Judith Butler's performative gender theory, which the result is that fashion that Einar used during his identity change is changed from men to women in 1990s era that categorized as genderless fashion. Then the third literature review is from Siti Rahmawati in 2017. The article deals with the preferred and these preferred responses and explaining responses through talk in interaction which occur in 5 conversations by analyzing the transcription of the Tanishka movie. The study is analyzing uses the Harvey-Sachs conversation analysis, and the result is inner applied 5 conversation features of preference accept admission of these preferred responses. And then for the next is from Anoxia Vestiarini Arumsari 2018. The purpose of her study is aims that wanted to explain Greta's contribution in Lily's transition process, since Greta's existence herself is the key of Lily's transition process for Lily after their marriage. And the result is shows that Greta is the one that altered Lily's gender identity change after marriage, and she helped Lily's gender change by providing help as encouragement and supporting psychologically and financially. And the last one is from Purnima R 2020. The article is deal with transvestism or cross-dressing and the process of male-femaling associated in the Tanishka movie. The study is using Richard Egan's theory, the prominent social psychologist theory, which the result is shows that dress plays an important role in dictating the identity of the central character as Einar or Lily. Now, for the underlying theory, the theory used is the feminist theory. Feminism is a complex set of ideologies and theories that at its core seeks to achieve equal social, political, and economic rights for women, even though in a literature study. Feminist theory is a way for women to fight for women's rights to obtain equal position with men in life, such as in politics, social, and economic fields. If linked to literary research, literary feminism is a literary study with a feminist theory approach. Women's point of view is used in conduction this literary research so that can be used by researchers is reading as women or reading as women. So there is a growing awareness that gender differences will influence literary meaning. Feminist theory are related to class and racial conflict, especially with gender conflict. And feminist literary criticism does not mean female critics or criticism of women or criticism of female author. The simple meanings contained are critics who feel literature with special awareness that there are sexes that are related to the culture, literature, and life. Analysis in the study of feminism should be able to reveal aspects of women's oppressions of men. The feminist issue always associated with the issue of equality and gender equality. However, those two issues is raises by feminist issues, and in contemporary theory, attention is no longer focused on women's life, but rather extends to gender analysis. Feminist theory uses the conflict approach to examine the era enforcement of gender roles and inequalities. The feminist perspective of gender stratification more recently takes into account intersectionality, a feminist sociological theory first highlighted by feminist sociologist Kimberly Crenshaw. Intersectionality suggests that various biological, social, and cultural categories, including gender, race, class, and ethnicity, interact and contribute towards systematic social inequality. A feminist critique of the function and articulation of gender in psychological research concern the ways that gender as a concept has been deployed politically. The consequences of this are that relations of power that are configured in terms of gender remains hidden and uninterrogated. Such research engages gender purely as a variable that may tell us interesting things about the social world we live in, but completely fails to provide sociopolitical analysis of the networks of power that exist within social structure and within social beings. Left unspoken is how some subjects are actively produced as gendered subject in very particular ways that either disempower or empower them in society. Given this, gender then is less about an objective variable that exists in isolation from the socio-political framings of the society, but is rather an active process of subjectification that is reproduced in different ways and contexts by gendered subject. This is the definition by Butler in 1990. Judith Butler's 1990 work on subjectification, for example, has been useful in feminist analysis of gendered schooling practice and how individuals within the education context become gendered subject. We move to the chapter 3. In the chapter 3, the type of study used is the qualitative study. And then the object used is, the material object is the Danishka movie, and the formal object is the Danishka movie. And then the type of data, the data that used to analyze is taken from the Danishka main character's wife, Gerda Wagner, process and the reason why Gerda wanted to pursue her dream as a successful painter. The primary data of this paper is the movie The Danish Girl, directed by Tom Hopper, and the scene that captured from the scene. The secondary resources is taken from theories of feminist literature and online journal sources. Then the method of collecting data is the gathering document and movie analysis from the movie as a reference, and the technique used is image capturing the scene as Gerda is starting to feel envious with her husband's success as painter, as both of them were a painter that analyzed in this paper. There are several steps that have done in conduct this paper. The first one is analyzing the movie to understand the story and plot for the analyzing process. The next one is gathering material from online journal for the references, and the literary theory is also applied to reveal how is Gerda's process into gaining recognition of her own success in this movie. And the method of data analysis is using the qualitative method, and the feminist theory is using, so we can determine Gerda's process to prove herself as a painter and how Gerda is maintained to reach her goal. And from data analyzing process, the writer used the content analysis approach to apply the feminist theory in analyzing Gerda's reason and process to gaining recognition and her own success in the Danish Girl movie by Tom Hopper in 2015. Now, okay, I think that's all from my presentation today. Thank you for your attention. I truly apologize if I made a mistake in presenting my proposal. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.